on? Charles Botenston here. Just came from a nice little real estate closing, hence the nice little tie. Two things, actually three things. Number one is that there's going to be a re-upload from a video that I actually shot earlier today, but it sucked and I got interrupted during, and I was like, I'm just going to upload it because I don't know if I'm going to have enough time. But I came back, it's around 6:30, came back to work. How cool is this wallpaper, by the way? All these books and everything. This is one of our conference rooms. So it's gonna be a re-upload. It's gonna be a little bit better because I'm gonna have more time to actually explain it, a little bit more conscious. I don't have a bunch of things in my head. Number two is videos are finally gonna get a little bit more professional in the fact that I'm gonna have a microphone, I'm gonna have a professional camera just sitting there so it's not on my iPhone. And the third thing is I'm coming out with a program. Early next year, it's gonna be a video program that essentially it's the top 200 things that I learned in self-development, and I'm deciding on how I want to take it. But it's been 10 years and I have over 200 of the top 200 things that I've learned, and it's insane. Like the things that I wish I knew, and then someone's going to compile that over hundreds of thousands of dollars that I spent and millions of miles of traveling to see speakers and hundreds of thousands of YouTube videos and everything else. So they'll be coming out. On to the main program, fear. So fear is one of the things that it actually started me in self-development. Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Dr. Susan Jeffers. That was the second book that I read when I started self-development. The first one was How to Win Friends and Influence People. So Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Great read, highly recommended, super short. And she gets right to the core of the 4 reasons we feel fear and 4 of the myths around fear. And since that time, I've always wanted to understand, like, what are the brain chemicals? Why do we have it? What was it? What was the survival mechanism? Like, fear is good. But the thing is, there's an incredible book that I'm reading right now called Relentless, and highly recommend it. And in the book, he talks about just the people that were relentless, the people that the Kobe's, the LeBrons, the Jordans. He did obviously coach basketball, and not as a head coach, but as a trainer. And he millions of dollars, like one of the top guys, obviously the people I just mentioned, to have them as a client consistently for 15, 16 years of Jordan's career. Yeah, that's pretty good. So he talks about there is that one of the number one reasons that NBA play, or the elite, he calls it the cleaners, the people that are just the elite people in business, the mothers, the fathers, whoever, the best in their field or their industry, is that their mind controls their body. Their body does not control their mind. So in other words, what does that mean? So when we go into a situation and we're fearful, we get sweaty palms, our face maybe turns red. That's what I used to do when I would public speak, and I probably will if the audience gets big enough. Or we get embarrassed or shameful or whatever. Our face turns red, we get sweaty, we get nervous, our throat tightens up, our heart starts beating faster. So these are all physical traits. Then our mind says, okay, we're fearful, and then you get even more fearful, and then you constrict, and then you don't move forward with the sales call, approaching that pretty girl, the public speech, pitching your service, launching your website, whatever the case is, whatever you're fearful of, becoming the MVP, whatever. So what he said was that the mind of these athletes actually control their body. So he says they still get nervous, but they've learned to know, this is super important, they've learned to know that when they actually do get nervous and they feel it, their mind says, oh, I've been here before, let's perform, let's do this. They use it not as fear, they say, I'm excited. And they use their body, or their mind uses their body instead of the other way around, all right? Which is super important. I've never heard that before, which is over 10 years of self-development. So in other words, you are ready to approach a pretty girl at Starbucks, and then as you're about to move, your heart starts beating, and then your mind says, your heart is beating, you're nervous, you shouldn't do this, you're tired, she has a boyfriend, there's people around, things like that. So what he says is that Michael Jordan, LeBron, and everything else, in a crucial moment of the game, their heart starts beating, they start getting sweaty palms and everything else, and then that triggers their mind, and they say, I'm excited, let's do this. And they use their body instead of their body using them. The second thing that I have to say about fear is stretching fear. So how do you stretch your comfort zone? This is really hard. Like people say, just do it, screw it, just do it, is Richard Branson's. But like people don't just take that advice. That's like motivational, and I'll talk about that actually in the program. Motivation is nothing. It really is temporary. Good habits is everything. So that's what LeBron, Kobe, and Michael Jordan, they did. Their habit was, okay, I felt this before, and they performed. So stretching, this is the biggest thing. There's two things I'll say about stretching your comfort zone. Number one is you only feel uncomfortable or anything. The only time that you actually feel fear or shameful or anything else when it has to do with other people. You never feel shameful talking to yourself in the shower or tripping and falling. But if you trip and fall in front of someone else, you feel embarrassed. So really, the social aspect of it is what makes it fearful. The fact that you're playing in front of millions of fans watching on TV and thousands of people in the stadium is why you're fearful. But if you're there and you're shooting a three-pointer and no one's around, so and I know you're saying, you're like, oh, obviously, Charles, because it counts and everything else. But just think about that for a second. One is by yourself, but once you add one more person, just one more person, that's where you actually get your fear. So if you dial that back, the best way to actually expand your comfort zone is to sit in the fear, okay? Sit in the uncomfortableness, and you actually stretch your comfort zone. I'll give you an example in a second, and you hold it. And you just hold it. See? Did you get a little uncomfortable there? That's what you have to do. All right? So, perfect example. You're getting rejected on the phone for calling for business. Or you're approaching that and the reason I say approaching, I'm a single guy, I'm dating, blah, blah, blah. So, walking up to a girl, say we're at Just Salad or Chopped, a salad place at lunch, which I do all the time. So I walk up to her and she's like, I'm not interested, or she has her headphones in or whatever. I don't stand there, but I feel, she says, say I'm not interested. I feel the feelings that I get from that. And I actually sit there in it, not like stand there next to her. If she's like, fuck off, they won't say that. But if they're like, whatever, I'm dating someone or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, good luck or whatever. And I just walk away, but I feel it. So, and there's always people around. So that's the thing, is that you have to sit in that, and that will actually expand your comfort zone. But this is the thing, is if you walk up and you approach her and she says, I'm not interested, and then you walk out of the store, or you put your head down and you look and you go like this, you actually have to bask in it. So in other words, you're giving a public speech and you're bombing. Every comedian says that. If you're on stage and you're bombing as a comedian, stay on stage. Because you have to feel the feeling of bombing. You have to feel the feeling of getting heckled, and stay in that. Because if you run away, your mind will make a neural connection between doing what you just did and running away. And that's the pathway that will join together. It'll say, when I do this and this happens, that means I run away. And I'm just going to layer this. I know this is a lot longer, but I'm telling you right now, understanding fear, your body and everything else, which is going to be in a future video, monitoring your body. But you actually, if you are tied to the outcome of the crowd loving you, of making the three-pointer, of getting the girl's number, of getting straight A's or whatever, if you're tied to that outcome, you're not actually letting go, and you're not actually in flow, because you're stopping yourself. You're tied to the outcome. I'm not saying not have goals, the goal of making the basket, but if you're tied, if this doesn't go in, so you're actually putting extra pressure on yourself. I hope this goes well. You have no control if a defender comes over and blocks the shot. You have no control if she has a boyfriend, or if she's not interested, or it's just not compatible, or there's a question on the test that you didn't prepare for, or there's a recession and you're starting a business. It's one of those things, like, you have to control what's controllable, which is your mind, your feelings, your fears, how you control them, the outcome. So it's not the outcome that's bad, it's how do you actually respond to the outcome? Look up the famous, and I'm just going to drop it at this, but look up the famous Michael Jordan, I think it was a Nike ad, and he talks about it. He goes, I missed more than 900 they 900 shots, and I was left with the game-winning shot 90 times, and I missed. So he's talking about all of his failures. How amazing is that? Babe Ruth, he struck out. I think he was the leading strikeout king, and he might be, or he still is, I don't know. But we only remember him for the home runs. So it's the same thing with you, all right? So I'm gonna be coming out with a lot better video, or not a lot better, hopefully a lot better, but a lot more professional. Coming out with the program. Have an awesome day. Leave your comments below, subscribe, share the video, and talk to you guys.